This is Gwen Talks Radio, where intimate conversations reveal, heal, inspire, and entertain. And now, here's your host, Tess Cacciatore.
Okay, here we go. This is Gwen Talks Radio, and I am your host, Tess Cacciatore. So here we are in January, and this is the most exciting time because I'm going to be talking about the Women's March, not only in LA, but the fact that when you turned on the TV sets, you saw major cities, not only in our country, but around the world that were marching. And it had to do a lot about the resistance, yes, but I think most of the energy that I felt personally and with the people that surrounded me last year and this year had to do about bringing unity together, bringing the empowerment together, bringing the energy of love. That was my most exciting thing about this march. And the fact that we had our voices heard, which is why I'm naming this episode, Hear Our Voice. So I have a funny story to tell, an eye-opening one for me to share. And that is that I had the honor to be able to go last year to the march and this year to the march with a couple of girlfriends that had daughters. And there were different mixes of mothers and daughters from the 2 years, both years just incredible. And I loved the energy of watching the crowd. The men, the women, all genders, all nationalities, different ages. My favorite shot that I took was maybe a 2-year-old toddler that was holding a cute little sign that said "Girls Rule." Everywhere I looked, there was just love and laughter and a lot of interesting things. However, within that big crowd, there's always the little shadow side that I believe is something that we get to talk about. So there was this one street near Pershing Square where they had a stage with a lot of speakers, and the crowds were so thick, and all we wanted to do, there was 3 of us, all we wanted to do is get through the crowd to the other side, to that Starbucks that looked like a quarter of a block away, but thousands of people in between us. And all we wanted to do is go through the crowd, excuse me, and get to that Starbucks so we can meet our friend who was alone over there, because we wanted to march together. So my friend, who's the mother, walks ahead of us, and I see her helping to part the ways. And then we come to a standstill. And my friend Janine is maybe 6 to 10 feet ahead of me, and I can't move any further because these 2 women that were together were saying, "You're not allowed to go there because we don't like that your friend said that you lost somebody. And she's the reason why we all women are held back." And I imagine my surprise. I said, "Wait a minute, we just want to get from here to there. If there is a stage here and there's wonderful speakers here and you choose to stay here to listen to them, I might want to go to another part of this grand event and meet with my friends or go see what else is going on. There's no reason why I should be sequestered in this very tight crowd when, number one, I'm a little bit claustrophobic, as was the daughter who was with me, 16-year-old daughter. And it was a little nerve-wracking, and I didn't understand it. And mind you, there was this big flu epidemic, and I couldn't understand why everyone was so in tight, close quarters, and I'm the only one that has a scarf wrapped around my face, so I must have looked like Bazooka Joe from the old bubblegum days. And I was shocked. And all I could come up with, which ended up being kind of our fun joke throughout the day, was I turned to her and I said, "But I thought this was all about love." And she didn't know what to say about that. And without hesitation, I don't know where it came from, I said in this voice exactly this way, "I love you." And the daughter, who was standing a couple people behind me, said later that she thought it was so interesting and sweet that I said that. I don't know where it came from for me, but my genuine feeling like I wanted just to be in love with this moment. And these women were accusing us of holding them back in life because because we wanted to go somewhere else, they were putting some big, huge feeling around it. And I tried really hard to continue the conversation and find out their point of view, but the more they spoke, the more they didn't make sense. And so I wanted to bring that up because where in our lives do we have this resistance within ourselves as females? Why don't we support one another a little better than that? There's no reason why I had to be forced to stay there, because then to me, I could turn around and say to her, well, wait a minute, you're holding me back to go over there when that's where I want to be. I'm not telling you you have to stay here. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. I was sharing it with my girlfriend this morning, and she said, I think you should talk about that. So here we are with a fabulous, amazing show ahead. I love these two people. They are powerhouses in our community, and not only in their community, but they're both from the Midwest, which I'm really proud to be from the Midwest. And we have John Erickson, who's here to talk. He's the president of National Organization for Women LA. So I love the fact that there's a man that's running our organization here, and he does a fabulous job. He does so many things, including one of the organizers of the Women's March last year and this year. And we also have the honor of having Councilmember Lindsey P. Horvath is her formal name. I call her Lindsey. I know I'm supposed to probably be more formal and call her Councilmember, but also she was mayor for a while in West Hollywood, which I love when females step up and take action and go into politics, which I've been asked several times. I'm thinking about what would I do in that arena if I was to do it. I'll never say never, because when you do, you end up doing something that you said you were never going to do. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and dive into these conversations. And I have some major interesting aha moments, revelations, and surprises that I had for myself during this process that I'd like to share with you throughout the show. And we'll be right back with John Erickson from the National Organization of Women.
Hi, I'm David Longoria with my new song, Playground, featuring Dallas Lovato with me. Time to dance. Playground is available now on all digital music stores and streaming. David Longoria featuring Dallas Lovato. Playground.
So welcome back to Gwen Talks Radio. This is your host, Tess Cacciatore. I just want to take this time to invite anyone out there that might be doing a book launch, an event, or anything that is like-minded, because we'd love to be able to promote what you're doing. So I'm really excited, as I talked about in the intro. I have two amazing guests that are tag team extraordinary, but I wanted to really talk about what happened last weekend, what happened last year, this movement that's going on, and the Women's March that happened that I was participating in last Saturday and the Saturday before, and how we're seeing this movement around the world. And we're going to talk to two people that are extraordinarily involved in this. So John Erickson is a PhD candidate of the American Religious History and holds 2 MAs from Claremont Graduate University. I have no idea how you would get all that done and still be young and amazing like John is. He also serves as a commissioner on the California Commission on the Status of Women, appointed by Governor Jerry Brown in 2017. He serves as the president of the Hollywood chapter for the National Organization for Women. How amazing that we have this extraordinary man that's working on, and the president, no less, of NOW. That to me just blew me away when I found out about that. He's also a board member for the City of West Hollywood Lesbian and Gay Advisory Board, and was most recently elected to the board of ACLU of Southern California. One of the producers of the Women's March, Los Angeles. We're going to bring him on right now because last year there was 750,000 people in 2017 March, and this past Saturday, 600,000 people. John, hello, congratulations. Are you exhausted?
Hi. No,
Hello.
Thank you for having me. I'm always tired, but we're always working. So there's too much to do.
I know. Well, I hadn't seen you for quite a while. And I ran into you in the middle of Hollywood Boulevard during the march of the #MeToo and Take Back Our Workforce. And you were just all in it, organizing, speaking, running it, just extraordinarily involved in all of this community effort. So I don't even know where to begin. I kind of want to back up, and then we're going to move into the current stage of the march, because we're going to lead that into bringing Lindsey on. But tell me about, how did you get involved and interested as a young person to get a PhD in American religious history? That to me is so fascinating.
Well, one thing that I'm very fascinated about is the disconnect between spirituality and sexuality. So that's really the focus of my dissertation when I actually get the chance to sit down and write it. And that's few and far in between sometimes, because you've got a lot of work going on by, organizing the Women's March or doing a bunch of other amazing, items that, bring attention to a lot of the causes that, we care so much about. So, I grew up gay in Wisconsin, and I never really thought for a second that there was a problem with me being gay and, me being religious. But apparently there are some issues, but it never impacted me in the same way that a lot of people have been impacted, negatively by religion. And I've been very fascinated from, religious studies perspective, but also, a sociological perspective as well. So, when I did my dissertation, that's kind of really what I set out to understand. So it's, interviews, and I interviewed a bunch of people and, kind of was asking this question, and it's been a really fun journey. And, that just really led me, before that I hopefully, was already doing a lot of feminist work, but when I say what really brought me into the feminist world, I just say I was raised right? I think we all have this capability to see something going wrong in the world, and we got to seek out to do whatever we can to change it. And so I had very strong, women figures in my life, both growing up, now, and what I'm doing everywhere, and I'm sure that will only continue. And just seeing the change that we really need to accomplish together, and, how men can be a part of that conversation and, be very effective allies is something that I care very deeply about.
Well, it's really important that the men are involved in this movement, because there's some men that are still sleeping, and then there's those of you and many friends that are men in my life that are extraordinary, and they understand the movement, and they're not threatened by it. They just are celebrating it and saying, we need to create that balance. So having that balance growing up, I grew up in the Midwest too. I'm from Iowa, you're from Wisconsin. We know that sometimes there's more, down home kind of viewpoints on that. So how were you supported in your life to get into where you went with your American religious history studies, but also just being able to grow up in that world and be so confident about it? Because a lot of kids aren't.
Yeah, I come from a very loving family. My mother is, the quintessential, Midwestern mom, was at every sports game, always telling us, how much she loved us. But then, I also had a grandmother, and this I think really segued into my, feminist awakening, where she was, one of the first women in the Women's Auxiliary Corps in the Army. After Pearl Harbor, she just left her job and joined. And really from there on out, she was, a really feminist leader in Wisconsin. She was the first female president of the Veterans of Foreign Wars in Wisconsin, and, was really prominent in a lot of, I think male-dominated spaces, but she staked her claim then, her nickname was Sarge. So her real name was, her real name was Gladys Ritzko, and, and everyone called her Sarge, including the governor of our state, that I would always go around and be with her. And she was like an integral figure in my life, and really just always taught me that nothing can hold you back. And then I have two amazing older twin sisters who are just the epitome of fabulous. I mean, they were not only 3-time All-Americans in sports and have master's degrees of their own, but have, amazing families and are just raising, my beautiful nieces and nephews, the way in which we need so many more people to really, I think, pay attention to, because it's so important in how, we look to what we're leaving the next generation. And that's kind of one thing I really focus on, and how we empower boys to, care about women's issues no matter what, and how we can make sure that, no matter what, nothing's holding anyone back. And that's, to combat all forms of oppression. And so, I think one thing that we have to do is we have to stick together. And I think that's why Hillary Clinton, campaign slogan, "Stronger Together," is always really just stuck with me in that way. And, I truly do believe those words. And that's kind of, every day I wake up going, well, how are we doing this? Not how am I doing this? Because you cannot do anything alone.
It's so amazing. What would you say to people out there that are parents that might have the struggle right now of being able to figure out how to raise their children in such a kind of crazy world? I mean, it's very prominent of what's going on. What words of advice would you give to parents out there that you learned from your mother, your grandmother, and all the people in your life that influenced you?
The world may be crazy, but it's what happens at home and what you tell those individuals. And there's a dog. See, told you.
Oh my gosh, it's
what happens,
so great.
it's kismet. And, it's whatever. It's how you create that environment for your home and really what conversations you have with your children. So that way, when they're watching the television and they see, an individual who we will not name on this beautiful program, saying the things that he does, it's making sure that you understand that you can have conversations with kids, no matter how young they are, and they will get it. They will understand it. My sisters have these conversations with my nieces and nephews who go, I really like that lady. Where is she? She seems a lot more stable than this man on television, right? And if an 8-year-old is saying that, then I think we can successfully say that we're doing something right. And with parents, we're going to have a lot more adult conversations, I think, as the years move on in this administration. But we have to be comfortable in knowing that we need to have those conversations so our kids don't see that as normal, because we don't want any of that behavior that any person in the highest office in the land, deemed as normal, because it's not normal, it's abnormal. And we need to make sure we recognize that every day.
Absolutely, which is kind of the driving force of what happened with the march last year. And what I love about that is that it wasn't necessarily all about bringing on the negative. It was really mirroring the positive, and then how it translated from last year to this year to be about the importance of getting out to vote and supporting women to run for office and all of that. So let's just go back to 2017. You were one of the producers of the Women's March in Los Angeles, and 750,000 people. I had a booth there. I marched. I loved it. It was amazing. And then you look at the numbers this year, which is 600,000. Some people could say, well, that number decreased. But in actuality, the expectation was that there was going to be 200,000. So it far exceeded the numbers. Tell me about the experience between last year and this year, and what excitement you have and pride you must have for this situation.
The march is truly magical. I mean, I really don't know how to describe it. Last year's experience was just insanely a piece of history I'll never forget. And, it's interesting because we reported 750, but we actually have strong assurances that we were upwards to 1 million last year.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it. I was in that crowd. I couldn't even get near the main stage.
Exactly. And this year, actually, we're saying 600,000, but we're actually hearing we're up to 800 or 750 already, actually. So, numbers are still coming in with our partners. But I think the beauty of the Women's March is that we are so in the weeds, making sure that the programming we put on stage is not only intersectional grassroots, but features the leaders that we need to hear from, a couple performers, because we can't just all, be talked at, and what we're really doing for our community. So reaching out to these partners, and there is just a core team. At the end of the day, it's really 6 or 7 people, each within our own lane, being very specific about what we're doing and working our butts off because we believe in the movement. And really what the Women's March represented in 2017, it was a wide, awakening experience. And, this year everyone's like, well, aren't you worried about not having the same amount of people? We were never worried. I think, and that's where the magic comes in. We were never worried because we knew people would come out, because there's still something to be done and we still need to come together. And we're going to do it again next year. And we're going to make sure that the same amount of people come out, if not more. I said a couple of weeks before the Women's March that if you told me the next day that 650,000 plus people came, I wouldn't be surprised. And I was never surprised because I actually, felt very confident because we were never worried about the numbers because we really believed in the cause. And I think when you have so many people actually believing in what's going on there and you have such great speakers, many of which Lindsey will be on the program shortly, to Sue Dunlap, Dr. Melina Abdullah, to, Andrew Day, to all these people, Viola Davis. Alfre Woodard just took us all to church. You do your job right and the people come out because they believe in the cause, and we all have to come together because we have to be together now more than ever.
It is so amazing just to watch that. And today, in fact, I was watching a live stream of a protest that was happening in Switzerland of all places, because I do a lot of work in Switzerland, and there's never been they're Swiss. That's the expression, right? And there was a protest there. But what was it like to see that the country has come together, but also the world? There's been marches all over the world with regard to that.
Yeah. We needed to do something and focus around an item that we gave someone an action statement. The Women's March last year, I think, propelled people in a way that it gave them that energy they needed on the darkest day. The day before it was pouring down rain, and then the next day the sun came out and it was beautiful, and a gazillion, which is not an actual number, but a gazillion people came out for a specific cause, and it fueled them for this year that has been tough and hard more on other communities that I could never experience because of my, social stature and who I am and, who I outwardly express, and that's the type of community we need to be showing up for. We need to be showing up for our trans brothers and sisters. We need to be showing up for undocumented individuals. We need to be showing up for our LGBT individuals. The community needs to show up together. And so this year we're really like, what do we need to do? California has a lot of power. We can flip the House ourselves with the seats that are up here. And so we said, we need to vote. We need to march to the polls. We need more women in elected office. We need Dianne Feinstein. We need Kamala Harris. We need these amazing leaders that are out there and focused on the cause. And that's really what we represented. And I'm just so glad that so many people got that out of it again, but they actually got an action statement. And I can only imagine the beauty that they're going to create from this march, fueling them, for months to come.
Well, I know firsthand that there was so many friends of mine that came with me last year, were a part of our booth, marched with us. They were so sad that they couldn't make it this year because this silly flu bug that was going around. But I tell you, the energy in the city, whether you were there or not, was on fire, and social media was blowing up in a wonderful way. And you got to get the message out of the importance of voting. And we're going to talk to Lindsey Horvath when we come back from the break, and know that the importance of voting was so beautiful that she actually is elected as a council member. And when I met her, she was the mayor of West Hollywood, which is a rotating position. We're going to find all about that. And John and Lindsey are dear friends, so this is going to be a great conversation you won't want to miss. We'll be right back.
The Life Changes Show is a premier radio show presented by the Life Changes Network, which is a company whose team has dedicated their lives not only to positive change, but to helping others observe and embrace, honor, and even celebrate their own changes, thus enabling a more positive, inspired life and helping to create a more positive and inspired world. From everyday people, celebrities, corporate giants, and children, we are here to help and to serve. With heart, integrity, and experience, we bring our message and positive intent into your lives through the Life Changes Show, lifechangesnetwork.com, and through guest appearances on other inspiring shows and events. If you wish to learn more about Life Changes Life Coaching, a private consultation with one of us, corporate or live event appearances, or if you would like us to appear on your radio or TV shows, please email us at info@lifechangesnetwork.com.
We're just going to jump right in. And I'm just going to say, I am so excited. We are here at Gwen Talks Radio, and I'm your host, Tess Cacciatore, and we have John Erickson. And I am so excited to bring on Lindsey Horvath. When I met her and John at the same time a few years ago, Lindsey was mayor of West Hollywood, and I was part of the It's Time movement, and we were doing some things in the West Hollywood community, and they were both so electrifying in their personality, but also their commitment to the community. They were so helpful in making sure that the event was great. And I thought, I want to know these people forever because they were so amazing. Lindsey is currently the West Hollywood council member since 2015, and she has a long history of civic and social justice advocacy. That's a long sentence. Long history of civic and social justice advocacy. She's also led the city to become one of the first in the nation to impose financial sanctions in Arizona for its discriminatory anti-immigration SB 1070 law. I want to find out all about that because the immigration situation right now, and being that it's from Arizona, I want to dig in on that conversation. Lindsey has also created the first ever West Hollywood community response team to domestic violence. Oh my gosh, want to talk about that. And you serve as a global coordinator for 1 Billion Rising, a global campaign for the V-Day movement to end violence against women and girls. I could go on and on and on and on about your LGBTQ rights, the things that you've done in 2009, where you represented the city of West Hollywood in the National Equality March in Washington, D.C. I just need to bring you on this show and just stop talking about you. Let you talk. Hello.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh my gosh, I've been wanting to connect with you for a long time. I've been following you and liking you and clicking you and sharing you, since I met you. And it's just been a crossover of beautiful synergy. But to have you and John on here is so exciting to me because it's so important for us to realize the importance of voting and that we have the power in our hands, and that what this march did for us was so extraordinary. But I want to back up a little bit, talk to you for a little while about your background and what brought you into, I want to talk about Arizona and the discrimination, anti-immigration. I definitely want to talk about that. And I want to talk about the response team to domestic violence, because that's right at Gwen's alley. And then we're going to bring John back on and we're going to talk about the march and forward and where we're going from here. So tell me about this Arizona anti-immigration SB 1070 law.
Sure. So at the time it was all over the news. This came up the first time I served on the city council. I was actually first appointed to the city council in 2009, and I served for a couple of years. I finished out the remainder of a council member's term who had been elected, but had unfortunately passed away while he was serving. And so SB 1070 was a policy that came up during that time. And basically, it was commonly referred to as the Show Us Your Papers law. And basically, people were targeted by law enforcement simply for appearing to be not of American descent, however you interpret that. And that if police requested that you, quote unquote, show your papers, if you couldn't provide documentation that you were not a legal U.S. resident, you could be at risk of deportation and all kinds of horrible, tragic actions under law enforcement and government at the state level in Arizona. And it was a terrible law. And there was an effort to push back, and it went to the courts. But we were the first city, West Hollywood was the first city to take action and actually impose financial sanctions. So we stopped doing business with the state of Arizona. We didn't have a lot of contracts with Arizona businesses, but there were a few. And we decided that we did not want to be spending money in a state that wanted to target unjustly and unfairly and unnecessarily people who were in many cases, and frankly in most cases, American citizens who simply didn't carry around their paperwork with them. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't carry my birth certificate with me every day. And so, I think what it was sort of the earliest vestiges of what we're starting to see even more so under this current regime, and I use that word intentionally. That we're targeting certain types of people, we're turning Americans against each other and becoming a country in that state, but in our country, a more divided society. And that's completely against everything I stand for personally. That's against our city's values. And that's why we took that position.
And it's against what we stand for as American citizens from the very beginning of our country being created, obviously taking over Native American land too. So it's
absolutely.
Yeah, so it's so wonderful that you did that, and to have that impact on Arizona, especially in the economy of the entertainment industry, for instance, because there's a lot of production companies out there. So that must have been a huge impact on them to not feel that financial support. What kind of results came from this situation with that law?
Well, many other cities followed suit and did what we did. And, not only did we not spend money as a city, but we also banned travel to the state of Arizona on behalf of the city. So other cities followed suit. We put a lot of pressure. It brought a lot of attention. And like I said, it ended up going, into the courts. And eventually was a lot of the courts pushed back on that law significantly. But I think the impact continues to be felt in the culture there and in our culture at large, that we would ever have a conversation where we're asking people to carry their papers as a way to demonstrate their citizenship, to instill fear and and create a sense of otherness for people in our community. It's just not who we want to be. I mean, our city of West Hollywood, a significant portion of our population is Russian-speaking immigrants who came from former Soviet Union, and so we have a lot of immigrants who might not look like people that would be targeted for, in Arizona to quote unquote show their papers. But we understand the impact and the importance of protecting an immigrant community in our city. And so that was another reason why we felt it was necessary for our city to take action on that issue.
Wow. You must be so proud about that. That's amazing.
Well, I'm proud to have had the support of our community. Sometimes our city can take action on issues and take positions that reach beyond our borders. And some people don't always like that. But I think living in a community that is open to taking action beyond our borders and to making sure our values reach beyond our borders is very important. It's one of the things I'm most proud of about our city.
That is wonderful. I do want to talk about, before we bring John back into the conversation, and John, you can jump in any time about any of this, of course, but the domestic violence response team, I'm really very curious about and interested, because that's something that I've experienced in my life, which is, pretty much known to this radio show. So I want to get more involved in being part of the community outreach and response team. Tell me how that started, because you created the first ever West Hollywood community response team. What was that like? What's it about? And where is it at now?
So it was pretty exciting to be able to bring to the city. And in fact, it's something that came out of my experience as a student at the University of Notre Dame. I interned for a variety of different advocacy and social service organizations in St. Joseph County and in the South Bend area. And while I was a gender studies major, and so I helped to create those internships while I was a student there. So I worked with organizations like the YWCA. At the time, it was called Sex Defense Services, which was a local resource center for survivors of sexual assault, children's abuse organizations, a whole variety of them. And I served in a variety of different capacities. And so what I did before graduating was I got all of these organizations, the representatives of these different organizations, to have a lunch with me before I graduated. And I shared with them the experience that I had as an intern and sort of painted a picture for them of what it was like to experience these cases from the perspective of a child, of a mother who was going to court with the court monitoring program that the YWCA did, a woman who was going through drug addiction services. There were a variety of services that I was able to experience. And so I helped to sort of paint a comprehensive picture and say, what if we created a survivor-centered, a victim-centered or approach to addressing these issues, instead of asking victims of these crimes to, have to tell their story so many times and have to track down paperwork and find all these resources on their own. What if we put them at the center of our work and we brought all the organizations and services and support directly to them? And so it started in St. Joseph County shortly after I had graduated. All the agencies said, you know, it would be great if we got together on a somewhat regular basis to discuss these issues and see what the experience was like. They brought in local law enforcement after I had sort of left them. And then that way they could start following cases from when they were first reported all the way through the system. And so when I was first appointed to the city council in West Hollywood, I asked how we were addressing issues of domestic violence and whether, you know, a system like that existed. And I found out that there wasn't one in place. And so I did pretty much the same thing. All of the social service organizations, our local law enforcement, representatives from the court system, all came together on a quarterly basis to review the case and the incidents of domestic violence in the city, the facts that we knew about them and were shareable, because obviously so much information is and should be confidential. And so, you know, but really helping from, you know, allowing the opportunity for social service organizations to speak directly with law enforcement. Hey, when you respond to a situation like this, here's how it impacts my, you know, the folks who come and speak with me, my clients at my agency, or vice versa. You know, if a victim doesn't report or doesn't follow through with their reporting, how that impacts, you know, a court case potentially, or how law enforcement can follow through with a case. And so so these organizations get together on a regular basis to sort of compare notes and try and figure out how we can better address issues of domestic violence in our community. And in West Hollywood, we also included the Los Angeles LGBT Center because we know that domestic violence isn't just male violence on female victims. It is present in same-sex relationships and, you know, in all different kinds of ways. And so we make sure that not only are we being culturally sensitive, but we also are being sensitive in terms of the language accessibility. We have translators for those who speak Russian, as well as Spanish, to be able to get services. And I think it's really important that we go above and beyond to help people feel comfortable and safe telling their stories. And so that's what we do.
That sharing your story just triggers me to a happy place, because that's a lot of what we do on the Global Women's Empowerment Network side, is really about revealing our story to heal so we can share that story and not be that shame and blame. And the fact that you brought council people together with law enforcement, the law enforcement side of the statistic is really scary for them. I mean, I've talked to many law enforcement people. Some of the worst calls that they have to go through is domestic violence, because it's a very unnerving situation for them. So thank you so much for taking that idea and bringing it into West Hollywood and implementing that and creating a model that I'm hoping that we can be able to replicate around not only other counties, but around the country, and to make sure that we have proper procedures in place to report and to be able to help heal these situations of the people, especially the LGBTQ communities. It is statistically a very high end of domestic violence as well. So thank you for shedding the light on that and working in that area.
Absolutely. And, you know, it starts with places like the one that you create on your radio show and on your program, for people to feel safe telling their stories, to get comfortable, you know, acknowledging what happened to them, and to know that it is safe to access support and resources. So everybody who participates in this conversation, including through Gwen, is really important, you know, as one more step forward in helping turn a victim into a survivor and actually achieve justice.
Well, we're seeing this on the news right now in current times with the doctor of the gymnasts, and to see that 125 women, young women, have been able to come and tell their story and have him sit there and squirm as he deserves to be. That is just power among power among power. So I want to ask you one question, because I think it'll inspire young women and women alike that want to run for office. What does it feel like when someone refers to you as council member, Lindsey Horvath or Mayor Lindsey Horvath. Just give our audience a little sneak peek on how it makes you feel, because I think it's really important, as we're going to talk about with John in a second, about the importance of going and getting involved in our communities. What was the first thing you felt when someone first addressed you that way?
Oh my gosh, it's pretty surreal. I grew up in the Midwest as well, so I guess we all have a Midwest connection.
Yay, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in a small town outside of Cleveland, Ohio.
Ohio, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Let's go.
Yeah, represent. And so, the idea that I was able to, be of service to my community and eventually become mayor in a city like West Hollywood is just something beyond, anything I ever could have imagined for myself. I will say it is empowering, but it's also, daunting at times, especially when you have issues in your community that are very difficult for people, and challenges that people are facing as a community. They are looking to you to help find those answers. And, I don't take it for granted ever. I work as hard as I possibly can every day to continue to earn the vote that I'm given at the polls once, but I had a 4-year term to earn it every day. And I've really enjoyed the opportunity to be able to work on behalf of my community, but there's nothing quite like it. And I have to say, statistically, they say women need to be asked about 9 times before they consider running for office. So for every woman who's listening, consider yourselves asked. We need more women in elected office. I especially want more young women to be part of the conversation, because what we have to say, the way we experience the world is unique, and it's important right now. The things that young women experience in our society are unlike what anybody else experiences. And if we don't have a seat at the table, if we're not participating in the conversation, we're not going to be part of addressing that problem. And often our issues can be overlooked. I think that phrase goes, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I want to make sure that
that's wild.
And so, I want to make sure that the issues that we face as women, whatever age we are, that they're being addressed, that people are taking us seriously, and that they're hearing our voices. And so I feel very lucky and very grateful to be able to serve my community in this way, and to hopefully help represent what communities can be doing more and better and differently for women in their community.
I love that. Well, the name of this episode, by the way, is called Hear Our Voice. And I've been asked at least 6 times, so maybe I need to be asked 3 more times. And John.
And just to toot my best friend's horn, because I know I can do it for her, because she's too modest. But I mean, Lindsey is, consummate public is always, what can I do? How can I help? She puts herself 1,000% into giving back to her community. And it's exactly the person that when you need her the most, she's always there. And she truly does represent that think local, act global mentality. She's having a bigger impact than she gives herself credit for. She has been amazing and integral in making sure that the backlog of rape kits in LA County have been tested, and victims are having their voices heard, and making sure that they could bring their attackers to justice. She deserves all the credit in making sure that she is the consummate public servant. I cannot speak enough and more highly about her.
Well, I've been watching your work, Lindsey, and just felt that when I met you. I'm so proud to have you on this show, and John, you too. I'm going to ask you that same question. What is it like when people refer to you as the president of the National Organization for Women? I love that.
Ultimately, you're talking to the person, and not me, but Lindsey, who really got me involved with Hollywood Now. I mean, if it weren't for Lindsey, I think a lot of this stuff would not have actually occurred in my life. I mean, she's been such a force for good, and although she's my one of my bestest friends, she's also a person I look up to and cherish her opinion and really trust what she has to say to me. And, I knew she was involved with now. She's actually a past president. So we're in, it's been amazing to, try to, step into her shoes and do what I think, it needs to be done and continue the work and the groundwork that she's really laid out. And, titles are great and they're wonderful, but I always say it's when you show up and do the work, and there's a lot of work to be done. You can call me Big Bird for all I care. It's really how we really have a lot of work. There's a lot of work to do. Yeah, there's a lot of work to do, and you can have whatever title you want, but if you're not showing up and doing the work, then the title's meaningless. And that's
Absolutely.
Really, I think, what we do.
A lot of people take their titles and took it into their ego place, and to really dig in and have that grassroots energy and really be able to turn it over. So what's on this?
And that's the Women's March.
Yes.
That's the Women's March. It was literally like, okay, who can help? And it was just show up, do the work, and look at what happened.
I know, it's amazing. So what's next on the horizon for you two best friends, the BFFs?
Wow.
Eating for one. No.
And feeding your dog.
And feeding my dog. Just on my horizon, I was so honored to be appointed by Governor Brown to be, the actual first man on the California Commission on the Status of Women and Girls for California. And so really working on the local basis here, representing the state commission and how we can, further impact, locally getting more women appointed to boards and commissions, running for elected office, and really just rabble rousing until we finally, can see some progress being made. Progress is a steady fight. It doesn't happen overnight, and we need to come back thirsty for more every single day. And I'm proud to, wake up every single day ready to say what's next. And, Lindsey's a consummate partner in everything that I do. And I never have to ask, if she'll show up, because I always know that she will show up. And, with the Women's March, she was a speaker, and she was a speaker last year. She's ultimately, a force for good that I look forward to continuing to see what she does, because I would love to call her Governor Horvath one day, but that's just my personal opinion. But,
I love that.
Take it for what you will.
Horvath. Oh my gosh. And I'll say I knew her when. So,
oh my gosh.
What is on your agenda? Because I want to jump in and work, with you both and help and dig in and figure out what I can do to help. So what's next on the agenda, and how can I serve both of you?
Thank you. That's so kind, because I think John really hit it on the head in saying that, no one can do this work alone. And, I'm so grateful to be part of a community like West Hollywood, where so many people are engaged and involved and really pay attention to what's going on in the world. And that's why I love to serve on the city council. My term concludes at the beginning of 2019. So this year I have to make some decisions about reelection. But I just want to be in the place where I can do the most good. The feeling really resonates in me that John said about, it doesn't really matter what title I have. I just want to do the work. I think there's so much work to be done out there. And I'm sort of one of those people that once you see an injustice, I want to do something about it. And I know John is that way. All the things that he's involved with, all the ways that he chooses to get involved, we both suffer a little bit from not knowing how to say no enough. But I think that's because, we really see all the ways that people need to be involved and engaged in order to, keep our society working together, to fight the really bad things that are happening out there. We can't, be having infighting over this or that issue. For those of us who really want to see a more just world for women and girls, for those of us who want to see a more inclusive world and a more diverse world, we have to be working together, and we have to listen to each other. And so, I just want to be a part of that, however I can be. I really enjoy being of service, and the longer I'm able to have this opportunity, you can rest assured the more work I will continue to do.
Well, count me in. I'll be a big yes girl to both of you. Ever needed.
And Tess, Tess, what's next is ultimately the vagina monologues. I mean, we buried the lead.
We
buried the lead.
The next thing we were going to talk about, I wanted to give a big shout out and a promo to Vagina Monologues that I'm so excited about. So, John, give us a recap of where we can get tickets and tell me all about that production.
Well, we, Hollywood Now and the City of West Hollywood are, presenting our second annual production of the Vagina Monologues on February 17th and 18th. That's a Saturday and a Sunday, p.m. in the West Hollywood City Council chambers. The ticket is $15 and all proceeds go to Planned Parenthood Los Angeles. We got to do everything we can to make sure we're raising the funds to protect, a woman's reproductive rights and the right to choose and the right to have, safe and affordable health care. And, we're really, we have another amazing cast of which Lindsey is a part of, of groups of activists and people in there doing the work. And you can go to hollywoodnow.org and buy a ticket. You can find us on Facebook at Hollywood Now and, click the link and go buy tickets. Last year we sold out actually a week before the show. So, we're doing 2 shows this year. And I'm just so thankful to not only, Lindsey and technically Councilmember Horvath for sponsoring the event, from the city perspective and really giving back and showing what true service really looks like and how we amplify the voices of our community. But we're going to put together another amazing, empowering show. And I'm so glad Gwen is, co-sponsoring it again this year and we'll be there. And it's just going to be amazing.
Yes, we're going to be there in droves. And I was really excited to be a part of the Vagina Monologues with Christina Mitchell. So and
she's in the cast and she's in our cast.
Oh, she's in your cast too. Oh my God, this is going to be so much fun. It's going to be a blast. We have a lot of people that are inboxing me saying, which night should we go? And I said, let's go both nights. So we're going to be organizing our tickets.
That's right.
Go to get those tickets if you're in the Los Angeles area. And we have the charity spotlight now, which is the Women's March LA, Planned Parenthood on the national level, but specifically Planned Parenthood in Los Angeles is John's one of his favorite places to go. And I want to throw in another one that I really love that I work with as well as A Window Between Worlds, which I noticed that was in Lindsey's bio. So I want to throw that into the charity spotlight because you can't throw enough spotlights on charities of individuals and organizations that are making the world a better place. So quickly, let's just repeat where people can find you in social media, how they can get involved in what you're doing. So John, go.
You can find me at JErickson85 on Twitter and Instagram, and it's just John Erickson on Facebook. You'll probably see a 6'4" tall white guy with a pink pussy hat on, so you probably found the right person if you're looking. And there are
otherwise
more
known as Big Bird.
John Erickson out there. Otherwise known as Big Bird. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'll tell you in private the horror story that is Big Bird in my growing up in my life and living in Wisconsin, but that's not for the radio.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll have to take that to a martini time offline.
Yes.
So, Lindsey, tell everyone where they can find you and support you and vote for you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm Lindsey P. Horvath on all social media, on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. It's Lindsey with an E. And I just really appreciate the opportunity to be in conversation with you. I appreciate the space that you create here and for all the work that you do, Tess, because it doesn't end with the conversation that you have here. This is really where you start the work that you do. And I just want to say thank you so much. It's very, very impactful, probably in ways you don't ever get to experience personally, but the lives that you touch and the ways you change people's lives are just innumerable.
Oh, I'm going to cry. Oh my gosh. Thank you. That means the world. That means the world to me, more than you both know. Well, I adore you both. I thank you for taking the time out to do this interview in your crazy busy schedule. But please, please, please know that I'm a big yes whenever you need me for whatever you need. And when I come back from the break, we're going to talk a little bit about the power that we have as Americans to vote. And in some countries, they don't. And I'm going to tell you a little story about what's happening in the Congo right now that will break your heart and hopefully get us to be activated, to be more powered to vote in our country, get the right people elected into office, and be able to change the world. So thank you once again to John and Councilmember Lindsey and Governor Lindsey in the future. And
Oh my!
we're setting up now.
You heard it here. You heard it here
John
first.
set it up, and I'm gonna get second in line. So I want to thank you both for coming to the show, and for the rest of you, we'll be right back.
Hey everyone, this is Justin Baldoni, and you are listening to Gwen Talks Radio. Please, please, please come join me at this year's Skid Row Carnival of Love, a day of joy and love and service where we give all of those experiencing homelessness the gift of being seen, heard, and loved. To find out more info, check us out on skidrowcarnivaloflove.org. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Welcome back to Gwen Talks Radio, and this, of course, is your host, Tess Cacciatore. That was just a commercial from Justin Baldoni from Carnival of Love. You might know his work on Jane the Virgin and other amazing jobs that he's done in the industry, as well as that TED Talk that you should look at, because it really exemplifies to me the character of strength and conviction of a man standing up and really just honoring other men and women in the world. So check out the Wayfayer Foundation.org, and you'll find out a lot of the work that Justin is doing. And I'm so excited to go this Saturday to Skid Row with my dear friend and editor of my book, Mira Howard. And we're going to be in service to the wonderful people that are living in the streets. The statistics of homelessness is outstanding and incredibly sad. So we need to stand up as citizens and join forces and make sure that there's a difference to be made. So I'm really excited to report back to you next week on what happens with the event. And please keep in touch with Justin and follow him in all the ways that he is doing and support his work. So I mentioned at the beginning of the show that I wanted to share with you a story which has to do with the song Spotlight that I'm doing. And I was racking my brain about what kind of song can I spotlight, some kind of women's march anthem to go along with the theme. And then all of a sudden I realized that my friend Leontine Lanza has been trying to reach me on Facebook, and she sends me often videos that are in French because it's from her home country of Congo. And when you get a chance, hopefully you'll be able to order my book when it comes out this spring. You'll hear a whole story about the Congo and the history and my experience there. So Congo has been in my heart and has been a passion of mine since 2011. And so what happened is that I started working with this man who was running for president back in 2010. And he called the name of his campaign Politics of Love. And I said, oh my gosh, I wrote a song called Politics of Love when I was in my 20s. So I went into my garage and pulled out this box and pulled out this electric blue binder that had all these lyrics in it. And some of them are handwritten and some of them are typewritten on an old-fashioned typewriter, not even a computer. And I found these lyrics of Politics of Love and I turned it into a song. And I put it towards the passion that I had for the Congo. And we had all these beautiful voices that came together that were Congolese women and Congolese drummers, and all of the beautiful languages that were melded together had the message of stand up for the women and children. So last night in preparation of the show, I was talking to Leontine and getting the update of what was happening. And once again, the President Kabila has refused to step down. And this is what I'm talking about as far as we as Americans have the right to vote. We have the power in our hands to elect the people that deserve to be in office, that are going to watch out for us people. We have the right to march like we did last weekend and last year and not be worried that the military is going to come in and shoot us dead in the streets, which is happening constantly in the Congo. And Leontine updated me on what was happening that I thought was very heartbreaking, but also relevant to this conversation. So in her words, and her story translated to me, was that there was an election that was supposed to come up once again in December. Kabila said, give me one more year, and refused to step down. So all the people came together. The Catholic churches in the Congo decided that they were going to take a stand. So they came together with Muslims and Jewish people and Congolese and Catholics and Christians, and they did a march in the street. And once again, on December 31st, just a few weeks ago, the military came in and shot many people dead in the streets. I don't know the statistics, but I think it's absolutely horrific to know that this is still happening. When she said that they were standing up, I said, Leontine, that's the message of the song, stand up for the women and children. And she said, yes, do you remember when I told you that the Congolese were sleeping? And that was back in 2010. But when they are ready to fight, they will stand up and nobody can stop them. So I want to put this song as the song spotlight. It's a song that's near and dear to me. It's on iTunes, so if you can go and download it, it's $1.29. The proceeds will go and help raise awareness for this situation and raise money for families that are victims of these atrocities. And know that the politics of love is really about the love of politics, the love of our lives, the love of our country, the love of our humanity. So here we are with Politics of Love. And remember to stand up.
Simameni sababu ya wamama wa Kongo na watoto wa Kongo.
Telema!
Lutelama mudamuda mama ye bana baku Kongo. Simameni!
Telema! Lève-toi!
Lutelama!
Telema pona bana ya Congo.
Stand up. These are the politics of love. The price of our emotion. These are the politics of love. Can we force such devotion?
Imprinted images inside that we can't control. Reflections of the truth. Anger lies behind. Standing on the corner, look into a puddle and see what's in your reflection. Your reflection. I see a secret place inside your mind. Indecisiveness doesn't seem too kind, but it seems to hide all your pain. But what about their pain? Their pain, her pain, his pain, my pain, your pain. Are you saving your passion for a rainy day? Don't you realize that I realize your ways? Go back, don't hide just because it be too late. Stand up for what you believe. You believe. You fell in love with distance and you went too far. You became protected, covered and scarred. Starting to dismiss all of your promises. Promises turned into lies.
These are the politics of love. The price of our emotion. These are the politics of love. Can we force such devotion? These are the politics of love. The price of our emotion. These are the politics of love. Can we force such devotion? Stand up, stand up, stand up for the women and the children, yeah.
Stand up for the women and children. Stop the fight, bring the truth to the light. Victims will now have a voice to make a choice. Relieve their burdens, make your choice. Where's your voice? Where's your voice? How can we console by raping the land of its sources? Women and babies, yeah, they need new courses. No, it won't happen overnight, but if we take a stand and fight together, we can make it right.
Stand up, stand up, stand up for the women and the children, yeah.
Stand up for the women and children.
Lève-toi pour les femmes et les enfants du Congo. These are the politics of love. The price of our emotion. These are the politics of love. Can we force such devotion? These are the politics of love. The price of our emotion.
Listen.
These are the politics of love. Can we force such devotion?
And when all is said and done, it's a sad affair. And no one wins. And no one wins.
Stand up.
Empty hearts, heads, promises and lies. After all we've been through. After all we've been through. Tell me who has to care. I know that you care. You know what to do. And so do I. You know what to do. And so do I. You know what to do. And so do I. After all we've been through. It's a sad affair. But we can win. Yeah, but we can win.
Stand up.
Simameni!
Lève-toi pour les femmes et les enfants du Congo.
Simameni.
Yes, I say, Semenini. Stand up for what you believe in. Stand up for the conviction of what you know as your truth, and be involved in your community. Get out and vote. Stand up and march in the streets. Be part of the campaigns and the elections coming up. Run for office yourself. So I'm reversing the order a little bit in this show because coming off of that song, it got me so supercharged. I wanted to just come back around, thank John Erickson and Councilmember Lindsey Horvath for coming on the show today. Thank you for all the activists that are out there, not only in the streets in America, but around the world. And I'm going to take this time to move us over into the Mind Over Matter Minute, to be able to know that just in a minute of the day, if you can just stop and exhale and breathe and bring love into your life, and exhale fear and anger and all the frustration that one might feel in any given day. We are in this together. You're not alone. And remember, the world is much better with you in it. And until the next time, be blessed.
And now, a Mind Over Matter Minute.
Thank you for listening. Visit us at gwen.live and join our Gwen community. Share what's on your mind.